Princess Charlotte wandered the royal grounds to enjoy the crisp air and the quiet serenity. She loved these walks. It was a time to explore without the bustle of palace life. But today was different. As she passed the familiar line of royal guards, something caught her eye. One guard swayed on his feet, his face was pale under the brim of his bearskin hat. Before she could process what was happening, he collapsed onto the gravel with a heavy thud. Panic gripped her. Charlotte dashed toward him. What had happened? Could her actions make a difference? "Sir, you all right?" she asked softly, but there was no response. His eyes fluttered, and he seemed barely conscious. Charlotte knew she had to act quickly. She reached into the small bag she had with her and pulled out a handkerchief and a small bottle of water. She poured some water onto the cloth and gently dabbed it across his forehead and cheeks. "Help! Someone, please come!" Charlotte called out. A few staff members on the nearby path turned their heads and began rushing toward her. Despite her young age, Charlotte remained calm. She tilted the guard's head slightly to ensure he could breathe more easily, just as she'd seen in first aid lessons. She kept wiping his face and glancing anxiously toward the approaching staff for assistance. The guard groaned faintly, his lips parted as though to speak, but the words didn't come. His uniform now seemed oppressive, the heavy fabric contributed to his distress. Charlotte's sharp eyes noticed something else, his hands were trembling slightly even as he lay still. "Just hold on," she whispered. By the time the staff arrived, Charlotte had done all she could to stabilize him. "He needs help," she said and stepped back to let them take over. Her quick thinking and steady hands had already made a difference, but something about the guard's condition unsettled her. His pale face and faint, disjointed groans hinted at more than simple fatigue. As they lifted the guard and prepared to carry him toward the palace infirmary, Charlotte stood for a moment. There was something deeper going on here, she could feel it. With a small, determined nod, she resolved to stay involved. Whatever had caused the guard to collapse, it wouldn't go unnoticed by her. "I want to come," she insisted. There was no hesitation in her tone, only determination. She had heard enough in the guard's fragmented words to know that this was more than a simple health emergency. His collapse hinted at burdens far heavier than his uniform. The staff exchanged glances but didn't argue. Even at her young age, Charlotte carried the composure of someone well aware of her responsibilities. She walked alongside the stretcher as they made their way to the palace infirmary. Who was this guard? What had he been trying to say? She could vaguely hear words that sounded like "Bills" and "my boy." Charlotte couldn't help but wonder if his collapse was more than exhaustion, perhaps a result of stress or personal struggles. The answers would come soon enough. For now, her concern for the man overrode everything else. As they entered the infirmary, the doctor greeted them and began a preliminary assessment of the guard. Charlotte stood quietly in the corner and watched as the doctor worked to stabilize him. Though his face had regained some color, the guard remained weak and barely responsive. His earlier mumblings replayed in her mind, and they formed a puzzle she was determined to solve. She watched intently as the doctor listened to his breathing, checked his vitals, and asked a few questions. The guard stirred again, his eyes opened slightly as he murmured something. Charlotte stepped closer and caught the faintest words, "Can't let them down." It was then she realized that this wasn't just a physical collapse, it was the weight of something far more profound pressing down on him. She knew exactly what he was going through, but she knew one thing, she couldn't walk away. This was no longer just a chance encounter on the royal grounds, it was a moment that would call upon her compassion and resolve in ways she hadn't yet imagined. "Dehydration and overexertion," the doctor muttered, "but there's something else, stress, perhaps." "His pulse is erratic." The guard's voice was still ringing in Charlotte's ears. She leaned in slightly. "Who needs you?" she asked softly. "My boy," the guard mumbled. "He's so sick. Bills piling up." His head turned slightly as if he was lost in a dream. Charlotte felt a lump rise in her throat. His words painted a picture of a man weighed down by responsibilities far beyond his duty as a guard. His son was ill, and financial burdens had clearly taken a toll on him, yet he had continued to stand at his post, enduring the strain in silence. The doctor glanced at Charlotte, and a look of quiet understanding passed between them. "He's delirious, but he's speaking from the heart," the doctor said softly. "Exhaustion and stress often bring these emotions to the surface." Charlotte nodded. Her instincts had been right. It was clear to her now that his collapse wasn't just the result of physical fatigue, it was the culmination of countless unseen burdens. As the guard continued to mumble incoherently, Charlotte pieced together fragments of his story. Words like medicine, school fees, and double shifts tumbled over his lips between his groans. It painted a picture of a devoted father trying to provide for his family against all odds. She imagined the long hours he must have worked, standing stoically in the crisp uniforms that symbolized strength and dignity, even as his own life grew more complicated and fragile. As the doctor prepared and for to rehydrate the guard, Charlotte stepped closer. "Will he be okay?" The doctor assured her he would recover, but added that it would take time. He'd need rest, proper nutrition, and less stress. Charlotte was relieved, but still troubled. She had seen something in the guard's vulnerability that she couldn't ignore. His quiet suffering was a reminder that the people who served the monarchy often sacrificed far more than they revealed. It wasn't enough, she realized, to simply ensure his recovery. Something more had to be done to ease his burden. "Thank you for helping him," Charlotte said to the doctor. "He deserves more than just to get better." Determined to learn more, Charlotte began discreetly speaking with staff who knew the guard. Each conversation added a layer to the picture of a man stretched thin by life's demands. One of the palace footmen, a longtime acquaintance of the guard, shared his insight. "He's a good man, Your Royal Highness. Devoted to his family. His youngest son has been in and out of the hospital for months now, and he's been doing everything he can to pay the medical bills. He even picked up extra shifts, which is probably why he's so worn down." A housekeeper chimed in. "He never complains, though. Always shows up on time, always professional. But you can see it in his eyes sometimes, he's carrying a heavy burden." Charlotte listened intently. She imagined the guard standing at his post day after day, his mind likely divided between his duties and his family's needs. His unwavering dedication, even in the face of such challenges, was both admirable and heartbreaking. The more Charlotte learned, the more determined she became to help. It wasn't just about easing his immediate burdens, it was about acknowledging his sacrifices and ensuring he felt valued. She realized that small gestures of kindness could make a profound difference, not only for him but also for his family. Her young mind began piecing together an idea. She couldn't solve every problem the guard faced, but she could show him that his sacrifices had not gone unnoticed. She could bring hope to his family and remind him that even the most stoic figures deserved care. As she stood outside the infirmary, the doctor approached her. "Your Royal Highness, he's stable now. With rest and proper care, he'll recover, but I'd recommend he take time off to focus on his health." The guard's story had touched something deep within Charlotte. She knew that a simple thank you wouldn't suffice. Her compassion demanded more, and her resolve was growing stronger by the moment. What would she do next? Whatever it was, it would be something that would truly melt hearts. Princess Charlotte stood in her room later that evening, surrounded by notebooks, stationery, and carefully selected items. The story of the royal guard passing out on the palace grounds and the burdens he carried weighed heavily on her heart. It was time to show him his service hadn't gone unnoticed. Charlotte began by thinking about the guard's family. She'd overheard the palace staff mention that his youngest child was battling an illness. Her first thought was to send something comforting for the boy. After consulting with her governess, she decided on a soft blanket embroidered with the child's name, a few books, and a set of art supplies. "Something to keep his spirits up," she murmured as she packed the items into a box. For the guard himself, she selected a personalized journal, something he could use to write his thoughts, knowing it might help ease some of the emotional burdens he carried. She also included a small gift card to a local store, quietly arranged through the palace staff, to help with groceries or other essentials. But the centerpiece of her gesture was a handwritten letter, penned with the utmost care and thoughtfulness. In her delicate handwriting, Charlotte wrote, "Dear Sir, I wanted to take a moment to thank you for your service and dedication. What happened today reminded me of how much you give, not just to the royal family but to your own family as well. Your strength and resilience are an inspiration. Please know that your efforts do not go unnoticed, and we are grateful for everything you do. I hope this small gesture brings some comfort to you and your loved ones during this time. With gratitude and warm wishes, Charlotte. The young princess read over her words carefully before sealing the envelope with a golden crest. Her heart swelled with pride, not for herself, but for the man who had given so much without expecting anything in return. Charlotte knew her gesture alone wouldn't be enough. The guard's story deserved greater recognition. Summoning all her courage, she approached her grandparents with a proposal. "May I speak with you about a guard who fainted today?" The king and Camilla exchanged glances. They were intrigued by her seriousness. Charlotte explained everything she had learned, the guard's dedication to his family, his sacrifices, and how the pressures of his life had pushed him to the breaking point. "He's done so much for us," she concluded. "I think it's time we do something for him." Camilla nodded thoughtfully and asked what Charlotte suggested. "I'd like to request a commendation for his service," Charlotte said. "It would show him and others like him that we see and appreciate their sacrifices. It might also inspire others to come forward if they are struggling." A few days later, Charlotte's efforts culminated in an official announcement. The guard would receive a royal commendation for his exemplary service and dedication. It would be presented in a small but meaningful ceremony at the palace. When the guard, now recovered and deeply moved, learned of the commendation, he was overcome with emotion. Charlotte stood beside her parents during the ceremony and watched as the guard accepted the honor with tears in his eyes. She felt a profound sense of fulfillment. Her actions had made a difference, not just for him, but for his family as well. After the ceremony, the guard approached Charlotte privately. "Your kindness means more than I can ever say," he said. "My family, they've never seen me recognized like this. You've given us hope." In the days following the ceremony, the royal guard returned to his post. The care package Princess Charlotte had prepared, along with her heartfelt letter, had brought his family to tears. His young son was wrapped in the soft embroidered blanket and smiled for the first time in weeks. The art supplies inspired colorful creations that now adorned their home. The guard's wife wrote a letter to the palace. "Your kindness has lifted a weight we thought we'd carry alone," she wrote. "You gave us more than gifts. You gave us hope and reminded us we are seen." Charlotte read the letter and felt a warmth bloom in her chest. She thought of the day she had spotted the guard collapsing and how a moment of quick action had led to something so meaningful. "Empathy," she whispered to herself. "It's the greatest gift we can give." Do you agree with Princess Charlotte that empathy is the greatest gift we can possibly give? Share your thoughts with us in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. For now, we're done. Catch you in the next video.